What's up, guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Hammer Down podcast. This is, yes, episode number 1. We're going to be starting a podcast here on the Hammer Dance channel. We're going to be talking about everything gaming, streaming, tech related, and some news and things like that. I'm just trying to kind of figure out a way to get some content out there for you guys in maybe some long form stuff that you can listen to on your drives to work, and things like that. But, today I really want to start off by talking about the elephant in the room here, and what I think that is a lot of people want to become streamers or content creators and all this kind of stuff, and they have this idea that it's like super easy. You just sit down, you record a bunch of videos, and you just turn on your stream, you go live, and you build an audience and things like that. But there's a lot more that goes into it than that, and I think that's kind of important for people to understand, because what can happen is if you have this idea, right, that you can basically just turn on your stream, hit the go live button, or sit down and just record a video about anything you want, and not really take the time to learn how to tag videos, how the algorithm works on YouTube, if that's where you're trying to post, things like that. It can lead to a lot of mental health issues and possibly, really, like, you can get very depressed and very discouraged and things like that by not understanding what you're doing and not understanding the amount of saturation, right? Like what you're actually up against here. And what you're up against is millions of other people that want to do the same thing. So it makes this way harder. So I want to get into that a little bit and talk to you guys a little bit about really what goes into doing this, like the struggles. It is rewarding when you do succeed at it. There is a lot of skill involved, a lot of time. If you think you're going to do this and put in less work than a full-time job, you're wrong at that point. Like really, what it comes down to is this is something that you do as a hobby, right? You need to have a passion for streaming or creating content or whatever it may be. You're not, in this day and age, going to be able to sit down and hit the go live button and play your favorite video game, and gain an audience. It's just not going to happen. It happened in the past, simply because of it wasn't as saturated, right? So people, like your Summit 1Gs of the world and things like that, they got to their level of fame and how big they are, simply because of the time that they started. Now, I'm not discrediting any of these people. They do have some skills, and a lot of them are good entertainers, but there is a lot of big streamers and big content creators out there that they started at the right time, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make it to that point right now. Like, you really can. It just takes a lot of work. It's going to take a lot more work than you think, right? So a normal full-time job is what, like 40 hours a week, right? So it's going to take more than 40 hours a week, and I promise you that. I've been at this for about 4 years, and we're just about reaching the 25K subscriber mark, which I'm super thankful for, and it's absolutely amazing. But it does take a lot of time, right? You need to come up with content ideas, like write out some kind of guides or outlines, not necessarily scripts, but you need to really kind of figure out what you're going to do. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, right? And I had kind of an advantage to this because I already know how to record and edit videos and things like that. The basics. I'm by no means an expert, but if you don't have those basic skills yet, that's another thing you need to tack onto your list. You need to learn how to record, how to light your videos, how to edit your videos, or if you're doing podcasts, you need to learn how to edit the audio and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it. So if this is something that you are going to embark on this journey, you need to be prepared to spend more time on this than a full-time job, is what I'm trying to say. It's going to be more than 40 hours a week. A lot of people struggle with the fact that they have lives or families or boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever it is. And there is a real struggle with not abandoning your regular life for your dream of becoming a streamer or a content creator or whatever. There is a balance that you need to learn how to maintain. So really, you need to be on a strict schedule, which is a lot harder than having a normal job as well. If you have a regular job, you're on that schedule, right? Like, you go to work at this time, you end work at this time. When you are doing something for yourself, you need to have a ton of self-discipline and make yourself a schedule and stick to that schedule, right? That's one of the most important parts. But yeah, you need to come up with ideas. Coming up with ideas can be hard too. I mean, I've been at this for about 3 or 4 years, and I've hit a point probably in the past year where I'm like, man, like how many more OBS tutorials can I make? Like it's to a point where the content on my channel is like I've tried to teach you guys everything that I know. Right. So now I need to figure out what I can do to provide you guys with some content every week that's not the same as it's been for the past 3 or 4 years, right? Like if you need to know how to set up OBS for streaming or recording or whatever, you guys go right to my channel, and then there's tons of videos there for you, right? Or how to start a YouTube, or how to grow on Twitch, or you know, vice versa, whatever it is. Like I have tons of videos on the channel for you guys to already find. So I can't like recreate these same videos. You know what I mean? Like there's no, I just can't do it. So I needed to figure out like what can I do to progress my channel even further. It's been about three and a half years, really, I think. So what kind of content can I come out with to constantly have something to talk to you guys about? And my idea for this was a podcast. I'm starting a podcast right here. You guys are hanging out. You know, this is the first episode of the Hammer Down podcast. So hopefully this takes off and you guys pick up with it and like it. I'm not really sure how long each episode is going to be yet. I kind of wanted to just do this first one and basically start talking and see where it goes. And, you know, we can talk about tons of things in the future. It doesn't need to be limited to streaming or gaming or tech related. That will be the basis, but we can talk about other things as well, depending on how well this podcast does. So I'm going to be working on getting this up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and basically everywhere that you can get audio only podcasts as well. So you can maybe listen to it on your drive into work or whatever it is. But yeah, so if you guys are out there and you're like, man, I want to become a streamer, I want to become a content creator, this and that, like I just want you all to understand, and by no means is this meant to be any kind of discouragement at all, right? You can do it. You can do anything that you put your mind to, but just understand that it's not as easy as it appears, right? This profession takes a lot of work. Like it takes, I'm telling you, a lot more than a full-time job, and so many people don't understand that. And it's kind of crazy to me because, and then they'll go and start a channel or go live on Twitch, and then they, you know, comment on all my videos and they're like, oh, I only get 1 viewer, or my videos on YouTube don't even get 10 views. And it's like, yeah, dude, it takes a long time. I've sat through just hours and hours and hours and hours of like webinars and learning how to post videos on YouTube, how the algorithm works and all that. And that's not even including time that I spent learning recording programs and Adobe Premiere and After Effects and things like that. You know, all the graphics and stuff on my stream and my channel, I create on my own. I learned how to do that stuff. So there's a lot of different skills that go into this. So I guess like really the first thing I would tell you guys is that, you know, sit down, come up with a plan for your channel or your stream or whatever it is, and write it all down on paper, right? And after writing it all down, see if you can maybe come up with about a year's worth of content, right? And that sounds crazy to do, but what I'm doing here is I'm telling you this so that you don't, you know, screw yourself up. If you come up with an idea and you run with this idea and it starts taking off and you realize, you know, 5 videos into it and you're like, holy crap, like what can well, I can't make any more videos on this. Like I'm out of content. Now you got to switch it up and now your audience changes. So come up with a solid year's worth of content on a release schedule, whatever it may be. If you're doing videos, streams, podcasts, whatever. Come up with a year's worth of content. And trust me, you will benefit from this in the long run. Spend more time planning and learning than you do actually making the content. And I tell you this because it's very important to know how to operate all the software you're going to use when making content, and basically anything you can learn in this field, whether it's analytics, statistics, hardware, software, whatever your content's going to be about, learn as much as you possibly can, because the more that you know, the more you have to talk about and share with other people, right? And that kind of leads me into another topic here, that growing in the content creation field on YouTube or Twitch or whatever really does have a strong impact to that is your category and what you're doing, right? So if you're trying to start like a gaming channel on YouTube right now, this is going to be a lot harder of a scene to break into than some sort of educational content, right? The Hammer Dance channel started as like some kind of Fortnite YouTube channel that I thought was gonna work and all this, and then I'm like, I was like 10 videos in, right? And I'm like, well, this isn't really working. No one cares about my videos because A, there's someone better than me out there all the time. There's always going to be someone better than you at gaming. There's people who do it for a living. And it's just such a saturated market, right? Go on YouTube and just type in like Fortnite tutorial and there's like millions of videos. Like you have to compete with so many people, right? So what I did was I kind of like reassessed my channel. I stepped back and I was like, you know, what do I know that I can share with people that will benefit them and will possibly be some good searchable content on YouTube that can pretty much live forever, and it doesn't really get outdated that much. And I was like, well, I know a lot about tech. I know a lot about how like streaming platforms work and audio and video, and that's kind of always been like my hobby, my specialty in life. So I'm like, you know what? This is what I'm going to base my channel on, right? So I started putting out videos like that, and you know, what do you know? Within a year, it started growing. A couple videos went viral and took off. Like I think my 2 OBS settings and OBS recording settings videos took off. They're over 500,000 views now. And it really kind of kick-started my channel. So basically what I'm trying to say is if I would have sat down in the beginning and I was like, you know, if I thought about the Fortnite channel right from the start, I would have been able to kind of figure out from there that like, maybe this wasn't the right move for me. Maybe this wasn't, you know, what I should have been doing, because it kind of, you know, put a damper on a little bit. I mean, those videos are still up on the channel. You guys can actually go back and find those now if you want. But yeah, it kind of put a damper on the channel. So that's why I'm telling you, you know, sit down, come up with a plan, come up with a release schedule for at least a year. Right. And I say a year because a year is a good amount of time to kind of see what videos are working for you, what videos aren't working for you, and what you're good at, really. Because, you know, like I said, it started as a gaming channel. And then I realized, you know, well, I have a lot of this knowledge about streaming and tech and things like that, and softwares and hardwares. And I'm like, well, why don't I just start making content around this? Because it's easy for me to talk about because I know it. And I did. And that's what I did. And it actually, once I switched over to doing that type of content, my channel started blowing up. And I was like, wow, this is great. Now, by no means am I like some kind of massive YouTuber. I don't want anyone to think that. And I'm not, you know, tooting my own horn here. But it is a steadily growing channel. Like I said, we're approaching the 25K subscriber mark, which is awesome. Thank you guys for all the support there. And, you know, my venture for this next year is going to be, I'm trying to start up my second half of content creation, right? I want people to join in on some live streams. I do enjoy playing games and stuff like that. So it'd be great if I have an audience to come hang out with me on Twitch, run, you know, a few live streams a week and play some games and laugh, and kind of more of a raw, uncensored style of content than what you guys are used to right here on my YouTube, right? So, you know, that's my idea for this next year. I'm always planning about a year in advance, right? And another thing that I decided to do was start this podcast. Because to me, this is a good way to get stuff off my mind and just talk to you guys, and it's content, right? Like this is content. I listen to podcasts all day long. And really when I was kind of starting out, I listened to a ton of podcasts just like this that talked about how people started, how, you know, how to start streaming, what are the best things to do, what are some things that you don't want to do, things that you should avoid. And that's what I did a lot in the beginning for sure. So, you know, hopefully this kind of gains some traction and you guys enjoy it, and we can just jump into a ton of other stuff. But like I said, it doesn't have to stick with streaming, gaming, or tech or whatever. It can kind of turn into an all-around podcast. But, you know, Hammer Down is the name. Thanks to Billy, came up with the name, and I appreciate it. Pretty cool name, and I like it because, you know, in all of our videos, which are edited, you know, at the end of the videos, say keep your hammers up. So the Hammer Down podcast is kind of an unedited, raw chat. You know what I mean? It's not really clipped at all. It's kind of just a full-on recording of me just talking, you know, from my head, and what I want to spit to you guys is what comes out. So yeah, I mean, you know, for this first podcast, like I said, I wanted to focus on the topic of, do you really want to become a content creator or a streamer? Or is it just some kind of pipe dream where you're like, I hate my job, like I would like to do this a lot more? Really sit down and figure that out and understand that it's going to take a lot more work than you think. It's going to be more work than a full-time job. And that is definitely the truth. Because especially in the beginning, you need to put in the hours. And I mean that like you really, really need to put in the hours. I think when I first started here, I was kind of burning myself out. I was trying to think 3 videos a week. Now I'm up to kind of like I do 1 video a week, and it's a little more sustainable for me because I do have a life outside of this and things like that. But it's important to understand what you can and can't do so that you don't start this and become discouraged by the fact that you can't keep up with what you set out to do, right? I can't stress that enough. If you set out to create, a video every single day for 6 months straight, like you need to be prepared. Like that is going to take a lot of time. That's like 6 to 10 hours a day dedicated strictly to that. And you have to understand that when you're making videos and all this stuff, I know a lot of you are gamers, you're not playing video games, right? Like your content, like I said, if you're doing gaming content, it's less playing games and enjoying the game and more figuring out what you can do in that game for content and then recording and editing it. So don't think that becoming a content creator or a streamer is going to allow you to just sit down in your chair and play games for, 20 to 30 hours a week or however long you want to. That's not how it works. And I think it's very important for people to really understand that, because that's another thing that I thought when I first started doing this back. I think I started like streaming and stuff back in like maybe like 2015. I was playing a lot of H1Z1 and stuff like that, or maybe 2016. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like I get to sit down and just play games all day and like, it's cool. And like, maybe it'll be a job. And like, it wasn't. I really didn't grow. You don't grow much. I mean, Twitch is extremely saturated with no algorithm for finding newer creators really. So if you're trying to stream on Twitch, if you guys have watched my videos, really the only way you're growing on Twitch is if you, make content somewhere else, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and kind of take that, build an audience on there where there is an algorithm that you can be found, and then funnel that over to your Twitch stream, which even I struggle with still at this point. And I'm almost at 25K subscribers. It's not as easy as you would think to convert people over, right? Getting people to like click that Twitch link and go follow. It's a lot bigger of a task than you would imagine. It's not that simple. So, keep that stuff in mind. And by no means is this meant to discourage anyone. I just wanted to start out the Hammer Down podcast with think about if this is something you really want to do. Because if you're all about taking like the easy route, I got to admit, it's way easier to just work 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, and then play video games at night and not have to worry about anything. There's constantly this looming feeling over your head when you're a content creator of like, if you're not working or putting out content, guess what? Someone else is, right? So you constantly have this feeling of like, I could be doing better. I need to be doing better. Now, some people thrive in this, and I do. Personally, I need to feel like I have something to do at all times. I definitely have some form of ADD, but I need to feel like I have something I'm striving towards or something I'm producing or creating at all times. And I've been like this really my whole life, right? Started when I was like a kid, and I used to mess around with like, you remember RPG Maker on like Windows XP and all that stuff? I used to spend like 50 hours a week, like designing these full RPG Maker games. And like, this is when I was like 10 years old. And like, that's how it all started. I like really, really need to have something that is mine, that, I'm taking something that's in my head and spitting it out into a video or words or whatever. And, that's what satisfies me. So if that's what motivates you and that's what gets you to go and do work and put the work in, that is, you will probably thrive in this kind of environment. But, comes along with a lot of stress. Like I said, if you're not putting out content one week, or you're really busy and you have things that you're doing, and, you got to realize other people still are, right? Other people are putting out content, and that is, it's just the reality of it. And there's other people that have more time than you, but you can't let that drag you down, and you can't let that bother you, right? Like I said, you got to just learn all the skills, plan it out, and then create a schedule and stick to it. But make sure that the schedule you create and set, the goals that you set for yourself they can't be too far-fetched, right? Keep these goals within reach so that you feel like you're actually accomplishing something. And I can't stress that enough, that I think that is so important to just understand and feel like you are accomplishing something every week, whatever it is, whether it's, basically anyone who's on this podcast and thinking about becoming a content creator. I want you to leave this episode and sit down and be like, okay, so I've been talking about doing this for a long time. I want to start, blah, blah, blah. So your one goal for this week is to set a hard date where you start this journey and stick to it, right? And then from there, set some other goals for the next week and the week after that. And, keep setting yourself new goals. There's nothing wrong with setting goals, but make sure you're setting attainable goals. Don't sit down and say, all right, my goal is for in 6 months, I want to have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? That's not something you can control. So you're setting yourself up for failure, and you will be discouraged, because chances are, unless you make some kind of crazy viral video, you're not going to be at 100,000 subscribers in the first 6 months. It's plain and simple. A lot of these big people that you see now, and you might think that they blew up overnight, but what you don't see is the behind the scenes of how long they've really been at this for time. There's a lot of these people who are big have been at this for years and years and years, and then you're just seeing them now because they recently got bigger. And that is like a very common misconception, I think, in the content creation community. So like I said, you guys got to leave this episode of the podcast and set yourself some goals, right? Set a hard start date, or if you already are doing stuff, set yourself like, okay, so I'm at 500 subscribers on YouTube. I want to be at my first 1,000 subs by January or February, right? Rethink your content. If your stuff is not, if your stuff is not getting pushed to people, or people aren't engaging with it, or they don't watch it, or they don't like it, switch it up. Nothing wrong with switching it up. If people like it, the algorithm will push it to them on YouTube. And that is something that everyone, I think, needs to understand. And like I was saying before, I want to kind of retouch on the topic of like trying to become a Twitch streamer. If that is what you're setting out to do and you're not making any other type of content, it's a very low chance that people will follow you on Twitch or even find you and be interested in you, unless you're doing something out of the ordinary, right? If you're just sitting down playing video games, I almost can promise you that no one cares. No one is going to watch. You're not going to have anyone ever actually find your stream. Maybe 1 or 2 people here and there, but it's not a sustainable thing. You're not really going to see any kind of steady growth over time. You're going to feel like you're just wasting time. And you might say, oh, well, I'm not wasting time. I'm playing video games anyway. I might as well turn on my stream. Right. But at the same time, you don't even need to turn on your stream, just play games if that's how you look at it. But if you're trying to stream to become a content creator, you need to do more than that. And like my number one suggestion is start a YouTube channel or, start a TikTok because that is a very good way to get discovered and people can find you, and it just helps out a lot. It really does. And, I've seen significant growth since I started my YouTube channel a few years ago. And then there's a lot of controversy of like, should you stream on Twitch? Should you stream on YouTube? Both are decent platforms. I have a ton of videos on the channel with pros and cons for both. I've tried both. I definitely have had a lot more success on YouTube, but that's simply because of the fact that I already have an audience on YouTube, right? If I didn't have an audience on YouTube and I just went on and tried to go live on a channel with no subscribers, how discoverable is my stream? Might be the same exact thing as Twitch. Haven't tried it yet, but I'm just saying that when you're starting out, when you're in the beginning, it's very tough. It can be very discouraging, but don't get discouraged. I'm telling you, there's a lot of things you can do. And if you set yourself small goals, you will feel accomplished and you won't get that sense of, being discouraged. And I think that's like one of the number one most important things. Like really, I would argue to say that the hardest part about being a content creator or a streamer or whatever you want to be is always going to be starting, right? Hitting that start point and actually sticking to what you wanted to do, right? Because a lot of people walk around and they're like, oh yeah, I want to do this. I have an idea for a YouTube channel. I have an idea for a podcast. I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. You talk about it for weeks on end. And like every week you're like, yeah, maybe next week I'll start it. Like when I have time. Like the problem with that is you're never going to do it, right? And it's clear because you've been talking about it for weeks or months or whatever. You're never going to do it. So you need to set yourself hard goals. And that is the hardest thing, is getting started, really. Once you get into the groove of it and you make yourself that little schedule, it's so easy to stick to it once you're in the groove, right? But getting started, that's the hardest part. And I want to end this podcast there. I want to say thank you for everyone who listened. Like I said, I'm working to get this podcast up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically anywhere you can listen to audio-only podcasts. And I will be posting these long-form podcast videos on the Hammer Dance channel right here. I'll post the video with it. I wasn't really looking at the camera. I'm kind of looking at my notes on what I wanted to talk about and things like that. But I will be posting them up on YouTube if you guys want to listen to the audio here as well. But yeah, so welcome to the Hammer Down Podcast. This was the first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you did. Subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. If you guys want to hang out with me on my live stream on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/hammerdance. Stream a few times a week on there. And obviously on YouTube for the audio listeners, we are youtube.com/hammerdance. Come subscribe, turn on those post notifications so you guys don't miss the next time I post a video or podcast. So this was the first episode of the Hammer Down Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, hammer down.